You flip the kitchen light on at 2 in the morning. There they are, a line of ants running from the window to the dog bowl. Or maybe it's roaches behind the stove. You already know what the pest control company will say. $350 for the first visit, and they'll need to come back. So you do what your grandmother would have done. You reach for a box of borax, mix it with a little sugar, and set it along the baseboards. That's the trick, right? Cheap, old-fashioned, natural. Everybody says so. Here's the thing, though. The powder most people reach for in that moment is not the one this video is about. And the reason might matter more than you think, especially if you've got a dog or a cat walking those same floors. Now, if you're the kind of person who keeps animals in the house and you've ever set out borax where they can reach it, what I'm about to walk through is worth your time. If this ends up being useful, a like or a share helps other pet owners find it too. That's all I'll say on that. Let's get into it. Let's give borax its due, because it deserves that much honesty. Borax has been in American homes since the 1890s. The 20 mule teams hauled it out of Death Valley, and by the time the Depression hit, nearly every farmhouse pantry had a box. Women used it to scrub floors, soften laundry water, and yes, kill bugs. It wasn't a gimmick. You mixed borax with powdered sugar, spooned it behind the icebox, and within a week the roach problem got better. That part is real. That part is documented. If your grandmother told you borax kills roaches, she was telling you the truth. She saw it work with her own eyes, and so did a million other women in that era. And here's why it makes so much sense on the surface. Borax comes from the ground. It's a mineral, sodium tetraborate, mined from evaporated lake beds. It sits on the store shelf next to baking soda and washing soda. It costs maybe $4 for a box that lasts months. Nothing about it looks or feels like a harsh chemical pesticide. It doesn't smell like one. It doesn't come in a locked cabinet. You don't need a license to buy it. So when somebody tells you it's natural, your brain files it right alongside vinegar and lemon juice. Something strong enough to clean with, but gentle enough to have around the house. That's a fair conclusion. Most people land there honestly. Now add the pet angle and watch what happens in your thinking. You've got a 12-year-old lab who sleeps by the back door. You've got a cat who walks every counter at midnight. The pest control guy wants to spray synthetic pyrethroids along your baseboards, and the label says keep pets away for 24 hours. That feels wrong. So you think, well, borax is natural. Borax is old-fashioned. Borax doesn't have those scary warning labels. It must be the safer choice. Compared to whatever the exterminator is pumping through a hose, borax feels like the gentle option. That's not a stupid conclusion. That's a protective instinct, and it comes from a good place. So half the internet will tell you the same thing. Mix borax and sugar. Put it in jar lids behind the fridge. The ants carry it back to the colony. The roaches eat it at night. Done. Pinterest boards, Facebook groups, YouTube videos with millions of views. Borax is the star of every natural pest control list you've ever seen. And it's always listed as safe. Sometimes they'll say, keep away from pets, almost as an afterthought, the way you'd say, wash your hands after. Not a real warning, more like a formality. That casualness is part of why the belief runs so deep. Nobody seems worried, so you don't worry either. But here's where the story turns, and I need you to hear this part clearly. Borax kills insects by poisoning them. That word matters, poisoning. When a roach walks through borax, it sticks to the legs and the body. The roach grooms itself, ingests the powder, and the borax disrupts its digestive system from the inside out. It's a stomach poison. Effective? Absolutely. But the mechanism is chemical toxicity. It is not killing bugs the way sandpaper wears down wood. It is killing them the way rat poison kills a rat, by being eaten and destroying organs internally. Natural and poison are not opposites. Arsenic is natural. Lead is natural. The word tells you where something came from, not what it does inside a living body.
Now think about your cat. Your cat walks through the kitchen where borax is dusted along the baseboard. Fine powder sticks to her paws. She sits on the couch and licks those paws clean, because that's what cats do 20 times a day. She just ingested borax. Not a lot, but she weighs 8 pounds. Veterinary sources, not bloggers, not Pinterest, flag borax as a gastrointestinal irritant in dogs and cats. Small repeated exposures can cause vomiting, drooling, stomach pain. In cats especially, because of that grooming instinct, the exposure is almost guaranteed if the powder is anywhere accessible. Low toxicity does not mean no toxicity. It means the dose to cause serious harm is higher than some other poisons. For a 7-pound cat, that threshold is not as high as you'd think. So if borax is a chemical stomach poison that poses a real risk to pets, then what is the $2 Depression-era trick that's actually pet-safe? It's a different powder entirely. And chances are you've heard the name, but never understood what it really does. It's called diatomaceous earth. Food-grade diatomaceous earth. DE for short. It's made from the fossilized skeletons of microscopic organisms called diatoms, tiny creatures that lived in ancient lakes and oceans millions of years ago. Their remains compressed into a soft, chalky rock that crumbles into a fine white powder. This powder does not poison anything. It has zero chemical toxicity. The FDA lists food-grade DE as generally recognized as safe. It kills bugs in a way that no insect on Earth can develop resistance to. And it costs about $2 per application from a bag you'll find at any farm supply store. Here's how DE works, and this is the part that changes everything. Under a microscope, each particle of diatomaceous earth has razor-sharp edges, like tiny shards of broken glass, but at a scale so small you'd never feel them on your fingertip. When a crawling insect walks through DE, those microscopic edges lacerate the waxy coating on its exoskeleton. That coating is what keeps the bug's moisture inside its body. Once it's cut, the insect starts losing fluid. It dehydrates. It dies. Not from poison, but from physics. The powder doesn't break down, doesn't evaporate, doesn't lose potency in sunlight. As long as it's dry, it keeps working. Bugs can evolve resistance to chemicals. They cannot evolve resistance to being physically cut open. That distinction is the whole game.
Now let's talk about what this actually looks like in your house, because the idea is only worth something if the application is right. And this is where most people go wrong with DE, not because they picked the wrong product, but because they use too much. Your instinct says, pile it on. If a little works, a lot works better. But with diatomaceous earth, the opposite is true. Bugs are not stupid. A roach sees a thick ridge of white powder across the floor and walks around it. What you want is a dusting so thin you can barely see it, like a breath of flour on a cutting board. Paper thin, almost invisible. That's the layer that works, because the insect walks through it without knowing. Cracks along baseboards, behind the stove and fridge where you never sweep, inside cabinet hinges, along windowsills and door frames. A cheap puffer bottle or even an old squeeze ketchup bottle lets you lay down that whisper-thin coat exactly where crawling insects travel at night. Let's settle the cost question honestly, because the title says $2, and I want that to hold up. A 4-pound bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth runs somewhere between $8 and $12 at a hardware store, a farm supply, or online. One application for an average kitchen uses a few tablespoons. You could treat every baseboard in your house and barely dent the bag. Per treatment, you're well under $2, probably closer to 50 cents. That bag will last you a year or more. Depression-era farmers didn't buy DE at a store. They knew about it because they used it in grain bins, dusted it over stored wheat and corn to keep weevils and beetles out all winter. That's real history, not internet lore. The same powder that protected a family's grain supply in 1934 is sitting on a shelf at Tractor Supply right now for the price of a cup of coffee.
Now here's where I owe you some honesty. Because this isn't a magic dust, and I'm not going to pretend it is. Diatomaceous earth is a contact killer for crawling insects. Ants, roaches, silverfish, earwigs, fleas, bedbugs, beetles, spiders. Anything that walks across it on legs is in serious trouble. But it does not work on flying insects that never land where you've dusted. It's not a bait. It doesn't attract anything. It's a barrier and a contact surface. So if you've got a mosquito problem or fruit flies circling your bananas, DE is not your answer for those. The title says any bug, and in fairness, for the crawling pests that actually invade homes, the ones you find in your kitchen, your bathroom, your basement, your bedroom, it covers the list remarkably well. But I'd rather be straight with you than let you think one powder solves every insect on the planet.
The forever part of the title deserves the same honesty. Diatomaceous earth doesn't degrade chemically. Sunlight doesn't weaken it. Microbes don't eat it. It's fossilized rock. It was already millions of years old before you opened the bag. So if you dust it into a crack behind your baseboard and that crack stays dry, that DE is working 5 years from now the same as it was on day one. That's what forever really means here. Not that one application under all conditions lasts a lifetime, but that the powder itself doesn't expire or go stale. The catch is moisture. If it gets wet, it clumps and stops working. You'll need to reapply after mopping, after a water leak, after any situation that introduces dampness. Dry DE is a permanent sentry. Wet DE is just mud. Keep it dry and you won't need to think about it again for a very long time.
Now, the pet safety piece. And I saved this for here because it matters most, and I want to be careful with it. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is not a poison. Its mechanism is entirely physical. The FDA classifies it as generally recognized as safe. It is in a completely different safety category than borax. That said, and this is important, it is a fine powder, and fine powders are irritating to lungs, yours and your pets. When you're applying DE, wear a simple dust mask. Keep your dog or cat out of the room until the dust is fully settled. Give it 30 minutes, an hour to be safe. Once it's settled into cracks and along edges, there's nothing airborne and nothing to worry about. A dog walking across a baseboard with settled DE is not in danger. But a cat sitting in a cloud of DE while you're puffing it around the kitchen, that's avoidable irritation to a small set of lungs. Pet safe means dramatically safer than chemical poisons. It does not mean use it carelessly. That's a distinction worth understanding. Let me be fair about one more thing before we close this out. Borax is not evil. It's not a scam. It genuinely kills roaches and ants, and your grandmother wasn't wrong to use it in her time. The problem isn't that borax exists. The problem is that the internet attached the word pet safe to it without checking. And that myth spread so wide that good people with good intentions are dusting it in places their animals can reach. If you don't have pets and you're dealing with a severe roach problem, borax bait in enclosed traps where no animal can access it still has a place.
This isn't about declaring one powder a villain and the other a saint. It's about matching the right tool to your actual situation. And if your situation includes a dog, a cat, or small children on the floor, food grade DE is the clear and honest winner.
So here's where you are now. You know the difference between a chemical kill and a physical kill. You know that natural is not the same word as safe. You know that the powder everyone recommends first, borax, carries a real risk for pets that most people wave away. And you know that a different powder, older and cheaper, does the job through pure physics and sits in a genuinely different safety category. Food-grade diatomaceous earth. Not pool-grade, not industrial. Food-grade. That label matters. Read the bag. If it doesn't say food-grade, put it back. That one detail is the difference between something that belongs in your home and something that doesn't. If you've got borax sitting out right now in a place your dog can nose into or your cat can walk through, go take care of that first. Then pick up a bag of food-grade DE next time you're near a farm store or a hardware store. Start with the kitchen baseboards, a thin line behind the fridge, inside the cabinet under the sink. Give it 2 or 3 days. You'll see what happens. Your grandparents didn't have an exterminator's number taped to the wall. They had a bag of powder and the good sense to use it where it counted. You don't need much more than that either.